We'll go drumless today. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichanna Balaba Girivanadari Gopichanna Balaba Girivanadari Yasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunitira Vanachari Jamunati Ravanachari Jayararo Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Yasuranandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunati Ravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribhajakacharya Shishman. His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kurvaishra Brinda Ki. Nam Char Shalhardas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannathpuri Dham Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Sambhira Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Shri Shri Radha Giridhara Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Gopremanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A little dissonance there. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dharmaganadi Bisaha Kalana Sadashamesha Parano Ko Nidodata Narayana Namaskritcha Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. Bhagavatam is his brain, it is his son, is a risen just after the departure of the Lord Krishna to his own abode, in company with knowledge and religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respects to the personality of God Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author, Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So we are on the 7th canto, chapter 13, text 27. And we're hearing from the Python man, who is a self-realized Paramahansa. And what is the unique, not unique, what is the feature of the Python man that Parikshit Maharaj noticed, much to his surprise? Huh? No. He was fat. He was a little chunky. He was well fed, as they used to say in India. Oh, you're well fed. It's a polite way of saying, hey, man, put on some poundage there. So in spite of him not making any endeavor, the python takes whatever falls in front of it and then swallows it. So he was fat. So we'll talk about that. Sukham asyatmano rupam sarve hoparatis tanu Mana samsparsajan drisva bhogan svapsham samvishan sukam ashatmano rupam sarveho paratistanu. It's nice if we try to say it not too fast, not too slow, and at the same speed. It actually becomes quite sweet. Mana samsparsajan drisva bhogan svapshami samvishan. A little fast there, buddy. Sukham satmano rupam sarveho paratistanu manasam sparsajan drisva bhogan svapshami samvishan sukham asatmano rupam sarveho paratistanu manasam sparsajan drisva bhogan svapshami samvishan. Sukham asatmano rupam sarveho paratistanu manasam sparsajan masa bhogan swapshami samvishan. Vaishnavis. Sarveho paratistanu manasam sparsajan drisva bhogan svapshami samvishan. Sukham, happiness. Asya, of him. Atmana, of the living entity. Rupam, the natural position. Sarva, all. Iha, material activities. Upadati, completely stopping. Tanu, the medium of its manifestation. Manasam sparshajan, produced from the demands for sense gratification. Drisva, after seeing. Bhogan, sense enjoyment. Svapshami, I am sitting silently, thinking deeply about these material activities. Samvishan, entering into such activities. So, translation, the actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. Also, you say, the actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. Purport. The difference between the philosophy of the Mayavadis and that of the Vaishnavas is explained herein. Both the Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas know that in materialist activities there's no happiness. The Mayavadis, therefore, adhere to the slogan, Brahman Satya Jagan Mithya, want to refrain from false materialistic activities. They want to stop all activities and merge into the Supreme Brahman. They want to find their home in Om. According to Vaishnava philosophy, however, if one simply ceases materialistic activities, one cannot remain inactive for very long. And therefore, everyone should engage himself. In other words, you're going to act. You're going to get, so the idea that we've suppressed it for some time, okay. But sooner or later, you're going to have desires and you're going to want to act. So that doesn't, all it does is abate for the moment the suffering. It doesn't solve the problem. It just postpones it. So that's what Prabhupada's saying here. Okay. And therefore, everyone should engage himself in spiritual activities, which will solve the problem of suffering in the material world. It is said, therefore, that although the Mayavad philosophers strive to refrain from materialistic activities and merge in the Brahman, and although they may actually merge into the Brahman existence, they may actually pull it off, for want of activity, they fall down again into material activities. Aruha krichena param padam tata patana yada, from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. Thus, the so-called renouncer, unable to remain in a meditation upon Brahman, returns to materialistic activities by opening hospitals and schools and so on. Therefore, simply cultivating knowledge that materialistic activities cannot give one happiness and that one should consequently cease from such activities is insufficient. One should cease from material activities and take up spiritual activities. It's like a number line. Okay, you can come to 0, but 0 doesn't do the job. You've got to move into the positive sphere, positive spiritual activities. Then the solution to the problem will be achieved. Spiritual activities are activities performed according to the order of Krishna, Anukulena Krishna Shelanam. If one does whatever Krishna says, his activities are not material. For example, when Arjuna fought in response to the order of Krishna, his activities were not material. Fighting for sense gratification is a materialistic activity, but fighting by the order of Krishna is spiritual. By spiritual activities, one becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead, and then enjoy blissful life eternally. Sign me up. Here in the material world, everything is but a mental concoction that will never give us real happiness. The practical solution, therefore, is to cease from materialist activities and engage in spiritual activities. Jagyartat karmano nyatra lokayam karma bandhana, from the 3rd chapter Bhagavad Gita. If one works for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Lord, Jagya or Vishnu, one is in a liberated state. If one fails to do so, however, he remains in a life of bondage. Om Gana Timarandasya Gyana Gana Salakaya Jakshushan Militan Gina Tasmade Shri Gurave Namaha. I wanted to just meditate for a moment on the Python Man and the beauty of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam, where will you find such personalities? I remember, and I was thinking about Britasura, who was, a giant demon, but turned out to be a devotee and a noble soul. Only in the Bhagavatam, there's romance, adventure. Where will you find such villains? Forget Shakespeare. What is it Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says about the hellish planets? It would make the hair of a great hero like Hamlet stand on end. The narration of the 5th canto of the hellish planets. So I remember my mother, rest her soul, used to babysit my kids sometimes. She's very helpful, actually, and in raising my children. And they're devotee kids. They want to hear a bedtime story. So what do they want to hear? Krishna book. They want to hear Mahabharata. They want to hear Ramayana. That's what they want to hear. So to their credit. So I remember asking my mother, who had a degree in English literature, I said, Mom, what do you think about the Krishna book, Because it's like demons galore, right? And she stood up and defended the Bhagavatam. She said, well, the Bible has David and Goliath. They got a giant roaming around in there. So I think, way to go, Mom. So it's just, where will you find such a literature on every single letter? What to speak of the message of Bhagavatam and the relief of Bhagavatam meant for a revolution in a misguided civilization. But then just the storyline. It's only the Bhagavatam. It is the Amala Purana, the spotless Purana. So now here it's saying in the verse, where it is, the Python Man has studied the matter carefully. You ever watch television without the sound on? It just looks ridiculous. When they get the music and the dialogue, it can be entangling, enticing, intriguing. But you watch it without the sound in it. Or cotton candy. I remember my brother, who tormented me for years. I was a little kid, we're at some fair or something, and I got my big thing of cotton candy, and my lusty, tongue is ready to go at it. And my brother poured a cup of water on it. What happens to your cotton candy if you pour? Kids, don't try this at home. But what happens? It's what the? It's gone. And the material world is like, the Python Man compares it to a mirage. You chase after, ever been out in the desert and there's a mirage and you can see it, but as you move, it moves. It's actually just the heat waves coming off the road. So it has no substance, it has no reality. So Bhagavatam is saying, via the Python Man, he says, if you study the matter carefully, there's no happiness. First off, he says, the actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. So he's saying the default mode of the living entity is to be happy. That's our nature. It's not an artificial imposition. It's not a mirage. It's not wishful thinking. We're meant to be happy. So therefore, Prabhus and Matajis, what is the natural question? If our natural default mode is to be happy, as stated here by the Python Man, what's the next logical question?
How to
Yeah. Well, what's up with this? If I'm supposed to be happy, and if we're honest with ourselves, I'm not really hitting on it. Well, what is the thing? I think it's Thoreau. Most people lead lives of quiet desperation. So that's the actual, in the core of their heart, the default mode. Loneliness is a big issue. Well, they've got all this social media. People feel lonely. They feel unfulfilled, unsatisfied. So if my default mode, the natural state as confirmed by the Python man, is to be happy, and if we're honest with ourselves, what was the other one that, what is the use of an unexamined life? I think that's Socrates. So just people are stumbling along, stimulus response, stimulus response, stimulus response, just countering the effects of material nature. That's not life. It's not, you know, you're just treading water. Nasty, brutish, and short. I didn't want to say it again. That's from Hobbes, isn't it, that guy? He must have been one mean-spirited buzzard. What is it? Brutish, brief, and beastly? What did he say? Nasty, brutish, and short. So, but again, they come to zero. Okay, well then I just stop, because this is not working. So if we step back to the cotton candy and watching TV without the sound on, if we just stop, this is what Python Man is saying. Hey, I just looked at it. What did they say? Just the facts? I just want the facts, man. I don't want so let's just look at the facts of this world. Let's look at it. Don't gussy it up with all kinds of romanticism and wishful thinking and dreaming. What's actually going on? So I read the earlier statements in this chapter, and I read to the end of the chapter, and I thought I would share. We were talking the other day about laws that, you know, like the law of gravity. You can, is it Mr. Magoo? Is Mr. Magoo still around, the cartoon? Any of you, you don't know Mr. Magoo? Oh, he was great. Mr. Magoo was famous for, he was not very, he was farsighted or nearsighted or whatever. Yeah, he was half blind. And he would always like walk out the window, or, you know, walk off a beam, or, you know, whatever it was, walk off the roof. That was Mr. Magoo. But as long as he didn't look down, then no problem. You know, in the cartoon movies, the Wile E. Coyote shoots off the cliff, you know, and he's no problem if you don't look down. Is that a fact? Whether you accept it, or Prabhupada's example is a child that touches fire. Now, the child doesn't know, well, this is an exothermic reaction. Does fire say, oh, he's just a child, I'll give him a break? Does it happen? Laws act. The law of gravity, whether you look down or not. My brother, my father called me fool number one. My brother was fool number one. I was fool number two. Because fool number one had a lot of foolish plans, which he tested out using fool number two, which was me. He was my older brother. Hey, you know, if you just get a cape and run fast enough and you start off high, you could probably fly too. So I swear to you, I broke both arms. My brother got me on the roof of our garage, which was a flat roof. And we had a towel, tied around my neck. And, put your hands out because that helps with the glide factor. And I was probably about 8 years old. I ran as fast as I could off the roof. You had a cape? Oh, I had a cape. I thought like Superman, the cape, the hands out, no problem. But I quickly was introduced to the law of gravity. I put my hands out, as the earth closed in on me, I broke both arms. So whether I knew it or not, the laws acted. So our Python man friend points out a couple laws of the material nature. So I thought I would just share those with you. And it's a great sutra. What is your thing? We're not the bod, worship God. What is you got a couple sutras?
Yeah. Don't sin, you can't win. Love God, not the bod. Chant Hare Krishna.
Make a good T-shirt. So here's one from the Python man. Death is certain. Life is uncertain. Death is going to happen. It's only a matter of time. All you're doing is treading water. But life is very uncertain. What is it? In spite of an expert captain, the boat can sink. Look at the Titanic, the unsinkable Titanic. And the material nature was more than willing to accept the challenge. In spite of an expert physician, the patient dies. My next door neighbor on this side, her name was Diane Arnold, and she scratched her leg on the swing set at school. It got infected. They didn't take care of it. I don't know what happened. Then she got, they used to call it lockjaw or tetanus. She died. Yeah, they had to clear out her little desk, and we were all wondering, what happened to Diane? Oh, gee, it was the first introduction to death for me. I thought, well, that was swift, What happened to, off she went. So, yeah, in spite of good parents, in spite of a doctor, in spite of an expert boat. That's also from the four Kumaras. It's also the four Kumaras. We're talking to Prithu, yeah. So, and it's also Prahlad. So, this death is for sure. Who was it who was frozen? Was it Walt Disney? Yeah, they froze him. Yeah. And they after 20 years, they unplugged the freezer, So, death is certain, but life is very uncertain. So here's another one. That is a mirage. There's no real substance to material happiness. It's always just around the corner, just over the hill. Just if I just get this, if I just dump that wife, if I marry this one, if I move to California, and not Northern California, you got to move to Southern California, and you got to be this side of I-5. Then you're going to hit on it. Well, ask my friends at Luxury Living at Diamond Apartments if they're hitting on it, There's always, as Madhu Sevata Prabhu introduced me to a saying in Italy. He's the GBC for Italy, Greece, a number of places, and a very nice devotee. He said, they say in Italy, there's always a rock in your shoe. You're trying to walk, you got a rock. There's always something. Or Prabhupada calls it sweet rice and sand in the sweet rice. Put a little sand in there, it just it'll never do it. So these are the sand and the sweet rice of material dreams. Another one is the supreme power of time. Krishna says time. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about time?
I am destroyer.
The what?
I am destroyer.
Destroyer of all things. Everything just by the law of friction. Friction. You know, everything's wearing out. Everything. Atoms colliding or whatever it is. Everything in this world is wearing out. So that's another one. The supreme effect of time. You're pointing to your knee for... Yeah, the knees get out because of the cartilage. So these are just some laws, you know. There was one of my favorite is there was a British admiral. I forget his name. I'll have to Google it someday. And, you know, the great Spanish Armada was coming to conquer England. Nelson at Trafalgar defeated it. This guy survived, had 3 ships shot out from under him. Transferred his command to another ship. You know, sailed with Nelson at Trafalgar. He was Irish, which gives you an indication. He went on, retired from life. He was stumbling home from the pub one night, drunk as a skunk, passed out, fell in a puddle of water, just big enough to cover his nose and his mouth. So, you know, 6 inches. Sailed the English Channel, but couldn't quite navigate that puddle. He drowned. The man drowned in a puddle of water. So, supreme effect of time. So these are just a couple factors intended to sober us. The oh, that's what I was looking for. And the Python man explains a little bit later on. And Prabhupada gives it a nice analogy. And who can guess what the meaning of this pastime is? A lusty man falls in love with a courtesan, you know, a beautiful prostitute. But he has not enough money to afford her. And the man is completely morose, dreaming, but can't have. So the wife, chaste, humble wife, asks him, why are you so morose? And the man is such a fool and hard-hearted, he actually tells his wife, oh, I'm just dreaming about that prostitute. So to get him out of his funk, the wife goes and serves the prostitute, does her laundry, cleans her house, cooks a nice meal. Naturally, after some time, the prostitute says, you're so nice. Why are you doing all this for me? And the wife explains, my husband, you know, didn't have any money. The prostitute says, your husband's a fool. But to please you, tell him to come. So he shows up. They used to say in the Navy, what candy is dandy, flowers have powers, but liquor is quicker. So he shows up, you know, all ready to, you know, with the flowers and a box of candy and everything, whatever it is, to see the prostitute. And the prostitute says, no, there's an art to these things. There's an art to enjoying the senses. And first, let's have a nice meal. So he has a multi-course meal. But he notices that each prep, the soup, the sabji, the savories, this and that, each course, she serves him in an iron bowl, a copper bowl, and a gold bowl. So 3 different metals, iron, copper, and gold, same prep. So he gets through the courses and whatever, and she says, all right, now let's have at it. And he says, okay, great, but I got one nagging question. You served each prep of our multi-course feast in 3 bowls of different quality: iron, copper, and gold. And the prostitute asks him, did it taste any different, whether it was in a copper bowl or an iron bowl or a gold bowl? He said, no. The prostitute said, you're a fool, go home. Other than Dravida and Balaram, who knows the meaning of this? What should he have snapped onto? And she said, go home, you're a fool, go home. Anyone know? We'll take some guesses. Anybody want to guess? Sankarshan, what do you think? Way to go. It didn't matter how it was packaged, what bowl it was in, it was the same thing. So sex, whether you're a beaver or a duck or Indra in heaven, I don't know why I thought of beavers and duck, but whatever it may be, it's the same thing. Once the lights are off, so, you know, you're dreaming of this. We're always thinking, oh, this will be better, or that will be better, or I'll try it like this. And in this way, the poor living entity is led by the nose through 8,400,000 different species of life. Trying it as this, trying it as that, but it's the same taste. So why are we letting ourselves? Nobody likes to be cheated. I remember when I was a kid, I had several events of cheating. I'll only tell one and then we'll wrap up. But I remember the first time I got a box of Cracker Jacks. Are Cracker Jacks still around? You know, it's like caramel covered popcorn, right? Yeah. And some peanuts and a prize. You know, as a lusty little kid, man, that was a box of bliss. And I remember I ripped it open, and it was the first third had, you know, it all settled. All there was a couple kernels, and what is this? So it's packaged nicely, but what is it? And it's all anticipation. Who's it, Pingala? The prostitute says that anticipation is the cause of happiness, not the actual event. It's dreaming about it. I had a friend who went to Tahiti, dreamt about the whole thing. You know, looks nice in the pictures. It was too hot. Everything was super expensive. They're from New England. They got broiled in the sun. They were so, you know, if you sunburn, everything hurts. You put a shirt on, it hurts. So the whole thing was, and everything was, because it all has to be shipped in, was super expensive. Anyway, so these are some basic laws. One who's intelligent strips away the veneer, like cotton candy when it's in, and what is the actual substance? So that's the point being here, made here. And, all right then. Oh, here's one from Hamsaduta. Hamsaduta told me this. Hamsaduta, quite a personality, but he was an excellent cook and kirtan leader. And he made nice Bengali prep. Prabhupada just ate a little. Prabhupada didn't eat much. He ate probably could fit in your hand, you know. And there sometimes Prabhupada would tuck in. But so he made nice Bengali preparation. Prabhupada didn't eat much. So I thought, well, I'll try Gujarati. Some nice, you know, Gujaratis are good cooks and didn't eat much. So I thought, well, I'll go for South Indian. You know, South Indian, nice, you know, curries and this and that. And Didn't eat much. So I thought, well, I'll try Italian. I'll try Mongolian barbecue. I mean, he tried everything, vegetarian, obviously. But, nice Krishna Prasad. He was a good cook. Prabhupada always ate the same amount. So he said, Prabhupada, I'm your cook. I'm here for you. You tell me what you want, I'll make it for you. You tell me what you're looking for, and I'll cook it for you. Prabhupada said, I'm an old man. He said, I have followed this tongue. And Hangzudra said he stuck his tongue out and pointed at his tongue. He said, I have followed this tongue all of my life. And then Prabhupada said, whatever you bring me now, I'm satisfied. Now that's happiness. You bring me something, I fill my stomach. It's not a big romance with what I'm going to have for lunch, So what's being described here is that instead of just trying to come to zero or madly chasing after it, devotees are, I remember, and I'll end here, I promise, because the Vedas are talking about what to do with desire. Buddhism is the fire sermon. The tongue is on fire, the eyes are on fire, the mind is on fire, the heart is on fire. It's heavy. Some of those Tibetan Buddhist sutras, before they start their meditation, are heavy-duty stuff. They eat out of a skull. It's sobering stuff, So, what was I going to say? Slipped right out of my little pea brain. So thank you, Balaram. Saved again by Balaram. Desire. What to do about desire? And the Christians talk about it. They self-flagellate. They get a little whip and whip themselves. Christian monks in the old days, and they would wear camel hair clothing. It's called sackcloth, like burlap, scratchy. Suppressing any. Go off and live on a island out in the Adriatic Sea. They would lower down a basket and they'd put a few. Yeah, they got those Greek monasteries. They were austere. You can go up here to, and he was, Waniparosera? I think he was a Jesuit. You can go up here. You see that Presidio? Seen the Presidio? You know the Presidio? What are you, sensory deprived? You can go by it on the freeway. It's up there on the hill, Presidio Park. And that's where Waniparosera, who started all the missions going all the way up to past San Francisco, each was a day's ride. So you could, the King's Highway. So you could travel up and down the state of California. So you can see where he stayed. He was one austere guy. It's a stone shelf, and he put a couple sackcloth, burlap, and that's where he would sleep. The guy was one austere fellow. So they don't want to get entangled. They don't want to get, And Prabhupada says, we'll go back to Godhead by eating. And popped in a gulab jamun, Mahaprabhu's mercy. So, what to do, and Krishna says, Sarvadharma Pratyaja, what to do with desire? Desire is getting us into trouble, and you try to stifle it. Prabhupada said it's like you put snakes in a basket and sit on the lid. Kids, don't try this at home. The snakes in the dark will calm down. They'll stop hissing and stirring around. Solve that problem. Take the lid off and stick your head in that basket. You think the snakes are going to be peaceful? Whap! So the simple point is what to do with desire, and nobody else but the Vaishnavas have the answer. And I remember, because, thinking about this thing, what about desire? The desire to be desireless is a self-centered desire. Try that one on for size. The desire to become desireless is a self-centered desire. So you're not free from desire at all. So I remember, what's the sound of one hand clapping? I was trying to figure out, what do I do with desire? And Prabhupada says on that happening album, the devotees have no desire. I thought, okay, well, how does that work out? And then Prabhupada says, still they have variegated desires to satisfy their Lord in loving service. I said, bam, there's the answer. You engage the senses. This world is not profane. Depends on how you engage it. A knife can take your life, and it can save your life in surgery. So the knife in and of itself is not good or bad. It's the purpose it's used for. So desire is not bad or good in and of itself. It's what you're desiring for. The things of this world are not profane. I don't have to go out to a Greek island and live in a cave and live on one chickpea a day. Good luck with that. I'll fall in love with a young girl who's bringing the chickpeas. It's true. Those big Mayavadis, that Chinmayananda, fell in love with a girl who was making his tea. Yeah. So anyway, there it is. The Python man here is explaining what to do about desire. It's profane, it's corruptive, it has no substance, it's like cotton candy. But when you change that desire and connect it with Krishna, you have unlimited field of activities. So many ways to please Krishna that are pleasing. And you go back to God at the same time. So we can end there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhus. Hare Krishna. As we amble out to nice breakfast prasadam, and we have a Sunday feast this evening, and we have a whole array of ways that we can serve Krishna today. Every devotee here has got something nice they'd like to do for Krishna that they're going to do today. It's fantastic. Does not that thing therapeutically treated become the cure of the self-same disease? Narada Muni says. And it's all packaged in the Bhagavatam with Bridasura, the Python man, the hero Omar Pariksit, who was in the womb and delivered. I mean, it just